Crowds of people, these are live pictures now coming through from Istanbul, have gathered in Taksim Square there in the centre in one of the largest displays of public anger the country's seen in years. The protesters are asking that the government should go after a local rally was brutally dispersed by the police. It triggered violence all across Turkey, in fact. Taking a closer look, the scene of the last 2 days, this is what it's looked like over the last 48 hours. We saw a swelling police presence in the city earlier on Saturday, with riot police numbers seemingly matching those of the protesters. Water cannon was used to disperse the demonstration, jets strong enough, in fact, to knock people down. The amount of tear gas used against the crowds has reportedly seen around 1,000 people seek medical help. There's comment from Turkey's Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan. He's vowed to press ahead, however, with a controversial parkway development there that sparked all this anger in the first place, although we think this is just the catalyst for it. A lot of correspondence there saying the real local issue is the worry that the country's perceived creeping Islamisation. While traffic was blocked as people from neighbouring towns headed into Istanbul to join in with the protest there, and the anti-government fury. Lizzie Phelan from RT's video agency Rupley's there for us. She's been following these 2 days now of clashes.
Now it seems like people are unequivocally demanding for Erdogan to resign. At the moment, there's currently reports of clashes in Besiktas and in Taksim. Right now, there's tens of thousands of people essentially occupying Taksim. There's not a police officer in sight. It seems that the police have moved to Besiktas and the clashes are going on there. There's been several months of tensions kind of bubbling underneath the surface in Turkey. There's been a series of protests and clashes much more isolated, obviously, than happening now, which is clearly the biggest protest movement that we've seen in Turkey since Erdogan took office in 2003. But over the last few months, there have been several protests over a variety of issues, including the government's policy on Syria. Protesters have come out accusing the Turkish government of collaborating with the opposition in Syria against the government of Bashar al-Assad. And then, of course, there's been protests against the ongoing Ergenekon trials, which have been going on for some years, and they came to a head a couple of months ago as those trials, as key dates in those trials arose. And the Ergenekon trials, of course, for many people is very symbolic of the problems with the Turkish government. It involves hundreds of people that have been imprisoned, including high-ranking members of the military, journalists, teachers, you name it, really. And so what's happening now, although it did start with a protest against the bulldozing of trees in Gezi Park in Taksim, it has escalated very quickly, and it seems like that was just a catalyst for many grievances that have been held by large sections of the population here. And now it really looks like, obviously it's been going on for several days, and it really looks like there is no sight of it subsiding.
We spoke to local reporter Mahir Zeynalov, who believes the unrest won't have gained such traction if the police hadn't weighed in so hard.
It was very peaceful. They were camping there for like 3 days, and police used the pepper sprays and even not tear gas initially. And then it just every day it just got bigger and bigger. Now tens of thousands of people joined, and the protests flared. So it's amazing to see how very small protests morph into a nationwide clashes and demonstrations. So it's that the government thought that these are the marginal groups trying to block the construction workers, but it turned out that that was not the case. As the police continue to use excessive force and their demands, going beyond the park.
So Turkey's Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan has acknowledged excessive force against protesters at Taksim Square was used. Professor Mark Almond, an international relations expert for Ankara's Bilkent University, told us Prime Minister Erdogan might see a repeat of what happened to leaders ousted by the Arab Spring.
massive police action, and of course it has backfired. And this is a very dramatic moment for the Prime Minister. Mr. Erdogan has had, for the first time, to step back. He was extremely aggressive in his initial statements that he wouldn't tolerate protest, and now the man who was the first world leader to call for President Mubarak to resign is now talking rather eerily like Mubarak did shortly before his own fall. He's now saying he's going to investigate the police, he's concerned for the people, he wants to carry on the project, so he's managing to, in a sense, muddy the water, but I don't think really to calm the situation, because if he insists on carrying on with this project, which is very unpopular, he still is going to keep the protest going. It's a public relations disaster with huge economic implications.